Vamed Hey. The line begins with the word poel. The line before that starts with the word Dvorov. The line afterwards starts with the word Mishtanis. Yeah? The principle of how you mashpia to a makabel, to a teacher. Even though you use the word malamed, when you're talking malamed bar poel. Malamed bar poel means a malamed who has an effect on the Talmud. He doesn't just teach him information, but he has an effect on him. What is the effect that he has? The effect is that he relates, he acclimates to that which is being taught. That's what malamed bar poel. And this acclimatation brings it to the point where he begins to think on his own, and he gets into the essence of the Seichel of the Harab. So there are many different ways of presenting it, and the Rebbe is presenting it in a very simple. It's called a Malamed Bar Poel. Bar Poel means one who has an effect, meaning he does not only teach, but he actually transforms a Talmud into being a Talmud of this Rav. We'll have a chance to delve into it a little more deeper as we go. Let me start with here. The Rav begins with Poel Kanal. V'zeh inyan hatirdo, and this is the principle of this described originally. Hatirdo, the disturbance. Shebaha mashpia. But mashpia is disturbed. He's preoccupied, but deeply preoccupied. In other words, he's preoccupied to the point where he's not sure of himself. In what way? Beho'etzo eich lashpia. In looking for the eitz and looking for the way how to be mashpia. He knows the subject matter very, very well. Why is he so disturbed? He's not disturbed about this subject matter. He's disturbed because he has a profound connection, a profound interest to get the Talmud involved, to get the Talmud to appreciate what he's teaching him. And this is very disturbing to him, because how am I going to get the Talmud to wake up and realize what he's being given, and to get into to look to absorb it. I've been said many times. This is a Rebbe that doesn't mention here, but although he does, I don't mind going looking for Dashi words. You cannot teach a Talmud in the form that Rebbe wants. He's talking about that he's actually effective by the Talmud unless the Talmud himself shows interest and brings out an interest in himself. In other words, the Talmud becomes proactive in trying to understand this thing. He's not waiting to be fed and just taking what the Malamed is giving him. He is delving into it and is trying to understand, trying to get it. And in this combination, in this relationship, the Malamed or the Rav is also disturbed. How am I going to satisfy? How am I going to present this to Talmud who is not at this level, who does not have this background, and yet I will get him to understand and to appreciate what I'm teaching him. This causes by the Malamed, in addition by the Talmud is extremely focused and extremely out of himself. But Malamed, it also brings about a tirda. a disturbance. He is not merely thinking along the lines that he thinks to himself. He steps out of that complacency. He's startled. In what? Because how am I going to present? How am I going to be mashpia? How am I going to teach it in a manner that it's going to be reaching the Talmud? We'll move on. It's understood. It's obvious. When one thinks into it, it's self-understood. Shehashpo gufo gamkein mishtanis bazeh. That the actual hashpo itself, the teaching itself that the Rav presents, is mishtanis bazeh, is changed as a result. In other words, this affects actually what he is saying, what he is giving. Surely there's a relationship between the Malamed and the Talmud, but that is the cause of it. But it has an effect also on what he's teaching him. Where ultimately this is the difference between habar poel and shein habar poel, between the Malamed who is habar poel, who has an effect, and the shein habar poel, the Malamed who does not have an effect. And the Rebbe explains in detail, the Malamed who is not a bar poel, who is not one who to have an effect on the Talmud, Harehu mashpia as a seichel k'mei shehu etzloi. He is mashpia, he teaches the seichel, even though he's mashpia, he brings out the seichel clearly, but k'mei shehu etzloi, as it is present in his own mind. He's presenting the seichel not only on the seichel level, but how it makes sense, but the way it makes sense to him. And this is not in proximity to the makabel. The makabel cannot relate to this seichel, even to the hashpah as it is by the Rav. But then the Malamed who is a bar peil, what is his inyan? How does he teach? A different way completely. Shemishana is a hashpah, that he changes the hashpah. Shetiye lefiyerech hamkabel. He changes the hashpah so that the hashpah will be lefiyerech hamkabel, in proximity to the makabel, at the level of the thinking process of the makabel. Ubichlolus, in principle, zehu b'haseichel hashayach al hamkabel. That is taking place, and that is possible to be identified and presented in the seichel hashayach al hamkabel, the seichel that is shayach, that actually is pertaining to the makabel. What is this seichel hashayach al hamkabel? The Rebbe explains the seichel that belongs to the makabel, shayach to the makabel. What does that mean? Ukiodua, as is known, the b'chol inyan sichli, that in every seichel inyan, yesh, there is the principle. K'moi she'haseichel hu le'atzmei, the way the seichel is unto himself. The way the seichel is unto himself.
To remain on this call, press 1.
The way the seichel is unto himself means unto the mashpia. And you'll discount shehu ha-pnimis, which is the pnimius of the seichel. And then there is the external appearance of the seichel, who sheshayach al hamkabel. This is what belongs and can relate to the makabel.
ask something?
Wait a second. So, these two in Yon Madrabe is saying, the Seichel HaShayachal Kmeishu Atzmei, and the Seichel HaShayachal HaMakabel. These are two distinct aspects in the Seichel. It's not the same Seichel, and with less emphasis, or less depth, and more depth. It's a different part of the Seichel. The Seichel Kmeishu Hulam Atzmei, and the Seichel HaShayachal HaMakabel. And the Rebbe says, what is, to put it bluntly, what the Seichel, the way it is like Atzmei, the way he sees it to himself, this is the Pnimius. And then there's Chitzenius of the Seichel, which is Makabel, and Shaykh to the Makabel. What's the difference between the Pnimius of the Seichel and the Chitzenius of the Seichel? Why can he give the Pnimius also to the Makabel? Why is it that the Pnimius stays with him, and the Seichel, Shaykh Makabel, is only the Chitzenius of the Seichel? So we are in the middle of discussing this principle, and we already identified that Seichel, here we have to repeat this as many times as necessary, because we were so exposed to Seichel Chitzeni, to secular Seichel, and this disturbs, this completely confuses. It bars us from seeing the Seichel as Seichel is. Seichel, the Chitzeni, world is Seichel, is derived from the world itself, from the Metzius and from the Chitzenius. 2 times 2 equals to 4. How do you know that? You take 2 and put it next to the other 2, count them up, and you have 4. There's no Pnimius to do this. The whole thing begins from the Chitzenius. And all you want to know is the Chitzenius. How much is it? You don't want to know the basis of this. You want to know Chitzenius. That's all it is. But then there is another level, another aspect in Seichel. It's called Pnimius HaSeichel. What's that about? Where does that come from? Again, we have discussed it many times. The Pnimius of the Seichel is the Seichel as it emanates from the Neshama itself, from the truth itself, from the Rosh and the Noinag HaNefesh. So we discussed it yesterday, and I was looking for a means to present it and to demonstrate it and show it. And of course, overnight I realized there is a very simple and clear way how to present it.
Present what?
Pnimius and Chitzenius. Pnimius, again, Pnimius is that which emanates from the Rotzon HaNoinag HaNefesh. Chitzenius is the way it is present in the world. And I was so shocked that it's in front of us. We've discussed it many times, and it doesn't come to you when you're involved in this. Interesting thing. We spoke many times the difference between a house and a home. A house and a home, this is exactly the same thing. A house is chitzonius. A house you have to build from boards and nails, and a place in the world. A home is created by the nefesh Adam. It's appreciated by the human being only. A home is a completely different phenomenon. Bipnimiyus. In essence, when a person is looking for a dwelling,
what?
A dwelling, a place to live.
Yeah, in a board.
What?
In a board, a place. Yeah, a place to be. In a board, you say also.
An abode.
In a board.
A place to live.
Yeah.
He's not looking for four walls and protect himself against rain and shine and so forth. He's looking for a home. He's looking for something that would house him and would give him a sense of belonging. That's meant a home. This sense of a home is sourced. It begins not after he experiences a house. Then first begins to understand, oh yeah, it's a good home. No, the experience of a home is sourced in his neshama element. The neshama demands that he has a home. The neshama is the one that gives him the definition of a home. This is what we quote all the time from the Gemara. Adam she'ele bayis ein Adam. Person who doesn't have a house is not an Adam. That's not true. Ein bayis means he doesn't have a home. Does not have a sense of belonging. He doesn't have a real presence in the world. We explained this many times. Why is a person related to a home? The Rebbe created the world. And the very last thing that the Rebbe created in the world is the human being. And the human being he created separately. Not they created all the other animals. The other animals says, David says, let the earth produce the animals. Let the earth produce the trees. So they belong, they're one thing to begin with. The trees come from the earth. The animals came out from the earth. The human being and earth are two separate entities completely. The earth and the world was created in total before the human being came on the scene. And then the Rebbe created the human being independently and brought him and put him into the world. Which means that he does not relate to the world on the concern on the worldly level. He relates to the world from his own perspective, from the perspective that the Rebbe has given him. I put you into this world because I put you into this world, not because this is where you came from. And in what sense I put you in the world so that you would bring to the world the spirit with which you were created. Le'ovdol Shomro. So the human being was brought into the world, but he remains above the world. He comes to the world to influence the world rather than to benefit from the world. This is not the definition of his relationship with the world. What gives him this relationship to the world? That yes, this is his world. This is the Rebbe himself. The Rebbe has bequeathed, has given him the right to the world. Not only give him the right to the world, but give him a mission in the world. The Ovdol Shomra says, this is your world. And he has a completely different definition of his presence in the world than all other animals will have. All other animals belong in the world. They need everything in the world for protection, for survival. Human being is in the world not for protection, for survival, but to identify what he stands for. Le'ovdol shomro. That's a human being. So when a human being has a house is a protective element. Defense mechanism against the elements. That's not the home of the human being. The home means this is where I belong, this is mine. This is the place from whence I'm going to bring forth my principles. I'm going to show the whole world how you're supposed to live from this little home. This home element, the pnimius, is not created from the world, it's created from the human being, from the neshama. Because the mission of the neshama has the godly element that the neshama was given. This is where it comes from, this is what creates it. And then it's translated in the world. In the world, b'chitzonius, it looks like a house. But b'pnimius, it's not a house at all. It's a home. This is pnimius and chitzonius. So this Malamed was going to teach to a student. The way the seichel that he's going to teach, the way he has it to himself, is the pnimius of the seichel. It is the seichel as it is created and expressing his neshama. If you're going to teach a child what is a home, you have to start from chitzonius. To first start a home from a house. And then after you describe to him a house, you explain to him that this house is such that a person does not just go in there empty-handed, but he furnishes it and he brings all his kelim, all his different valuables, and he decorates the home because this is not a house. That comes afterwards. By the mashpia, this is where it begins. By the Talmud, this comes first afterwards. So the seichel, the way that's by the Talmud, the way shachal Talmud is a completely different seichel, the way it is le'atzmai. The way the seichel is le'atzmai begins from the pnimius. But the Talmud seichel begins from the hitzonius. Let's look inside. The line begins in sichli. Every in sichli, yes. Every in sichli, there is a presence, it exists. The way the seichel is unto himself. And what is the way the seichel is yatzmai? Shehu ha-pnimius, which is the pnimius of the seichel. Why the atzmai is the pnimius? Because the atzmai, the whole seichel is created from inside out, from a higher, from the neshama source. So the seichel, the way it is known to him, is the pnimius of the seichel. The pnimius is not even a presenter. The pnimius is the way the seichel, the neshama of the seichel. This is the way the seichel is unto himself. Then there is also the other part of the seichel. In the seichel, there is, in every seichel there is the pnimius of the seichel. Shehu hashayach hu sheshachal hamkab. The chitzonius of seichel, this is what shayach to the makab. This is what pertains to the makab. The chitzonius of the seichel is shayach to the makab. Because the saints of the seichel is that which can be shown and can be discussed externally. Because that which the pnimius cannot be discussed externally. This is something which you know to yourself.
Can I ask now?
Yes. Go ahead. Yes, you can.
I think it's clearer now, but I still want to know if I understand it. The cycle la'atzma is the pnimius. So if it's la'atzma, why don't we call it the etzem of the cycle or the mus of the cycle? Why do we call it pnimius?
Okay, Rav, I'll discuss it with you, but I want to make a point to you. Please understand. Your question is coming from outside. You're not delving into the seichel that we're talking and saying, oh, have a kasha. Why don't you call it something else? That's not going to help you to understand the seichel at all. Understanding of a seichel has to, I'm sorry, the seichel has to come from what the seichel is, what's being presented. What do you mean? We are constantly asking questions from a left field. That's not going to reveal the seichel to you at all. It's as if you're not trying to understand what's being taught. You're looking for your own satisfaction. To answer to you why it's called the Pnimi HaSeichel, not the Mahuz HaSeichel, because it is not the Mahuz HaSeichel. Mahuz HaSeichel is the Nefesh itself. Pnimi, the Pnimi is a Sichli. It's a Sichli. By the Rab, by the Mashpia, this is a Seichel in him. In other words, he to himself, he can actually elaborate on it. Seichel, as we discussed the other day, Seichel is how the etzem is presented in a world environment. That's Seichel. The mahus of the seichel. Let's take the example that we were discussing. Might as well. A person has a home. The mahus element of that seichel, as we explained before, is not even a home. The mahus element is that the person has a true presence in the world given to him by his Creator. He's not getting it from the world altogether. That's the mahus of the seichel. At that point, it's not seichel at all. It's the reality of what a human being is, defined by his Creator. When it comes to seichel, when he begins to identify what he is here for, what mission was given, that's when it becomes seichel. That's called pnimi HaSeichel. So that comes already after he's a Mitzias, and what mission he is given. The mahus is not what he is in the world, the mahus is what they got create. In the initial thing that says, Nasa Odem B'Salmeinu Kid Museina. That's a mahus. It's not seichel at all. Oh, look at this. I finished with I'm undertaking. I never finished with RASHAB. I'm still in time. The Chitzenes HaSeichel, Hu Sheshach L'Makabel. That is the Seichel part that is Shach to the Makabel. Because the Pnimius is not Shach to Makabel. Why not Shach to Makabel? The Makabel is also a Bar Seichel. Because the pnimis is not something that can be transmitted. It's something that you have to find in your own neshama. It's something which emanates from inside. Yes, you're given all the means and all the hitzenis, the allusions, but then you have to delve into it on your own and find it in your own seich, in your own neshama. You have to recognize, yes, for sure, yeah, that's real. Like we said many times. Oh yeah, I see it. That's a completely different thing. That which you see cannot be given. That you have to delve in and experience on your own. If you are told, if a human being is told, listen to me, I created you. I created you to fulfill my mission. This is what defines who you are here in this world. And I'm giving you all the means and I'm giving you all the inspiration to represent that mission. That's what you are. If a person reflects on this principal truth, this is where he begins to look at the chitzei, the pnimis of the seich. Much to be elaborated, I think it's obvious, and we'll stop at this point. Let me just conclude this evening inside.